Do not move away just yet. Pause for one quiet moment. There is a reason your eyes stopped here instead of somewhere else. Thousands of voices compete for your attention every day, yet somehow this message found its way to you. That is not the beginning of the story, it is the continuation of something that has already been unfolding beyond what your eyes could see. You have been asking silent questions that never reached another person. You carried conversations inside your heart that no one else heard. You smiled while hiding uncertainty. You kept walking while wondering if anyone was walking toward you at the same time. Listen carefully, because what is about to unfold is not what you expected. Someone has been thinking about you with a depth they themselves do not fully understand. Not for a moment. Not for a day. For far longer than either of you realize. And every attempt to ignore those feelings has only made them stronger. Do not rush past these words. Every sentence carries another piece of a picture that has not yet been completed. The next few moments may connect thoughts you have carried for a very long time. Your heart has noticed unusual moments lately. A familiar feeling that appears without warning. A memory that arrives for no obvious reason. A name that seems impossible to forget. A sense that something unfinished is quietly waiting. You wondered whether those moments meant anything at all. What if they did? What if they were never random? My beloved child, heaven often speaks in whispers before it speaks in thunder. Long before great moments arrive, small signs begin gathering like stars appearing before the night becomes fully visible. That is where this story begins. Not in noise. Not in fear. But inside a quiet place where two journeys have been moving toward one another without realizing how close they have become. There is someone whose heart has reached a crossroads. They have tried convincing themselves that moving forward without you would be easier. They tried replacing unanswered questions with distractions. They buried emotions beneath responsibilities. They filled empty hours with activity, believing that constant movement could silence what remained inside. Yet every road they chose somehow circled back to one unexpected place. You. Even they cannot explain why. Sometimes your memory appears during ordinary conversations. Sometimes it interrupts peaceful evenings. Sometimes it arrives in dreams that feel unusually vivid. And every time they think those feelings have finally faded, something reminds them again. A song. A familiar phrase. A place. A color. A simple moment that should have meant nothing. Yet everything changes again. You have not seen those moments. You have not heard those conversations. But they have happened. Again. And again. And again. Do not leave yet, because the most surprising part has not been revealed. There is a reason these emotions have become impossible for them to ignore. Something unexpected happened recently. No one around them noticed its importance. To everyone else, it looked ordinary. But in the unseen places where hearts are quietly shaped, it became a turning point. One simple realization changed everything. They finally understood that every attempt to forget you only revealed how deeply your presence had already become part of their future hopes. That realization frightened them. Not because love is frightening. Because honesty is. The truth asks people to stop pretending. The truth asks them to face what they have hidden. The truth asks difficult questions. What if this connection was never as small as they imagined? What if they waited too long? What if another opportunity never arrived? Those questions have remained with them. Quietly. Constantly. Patiently. My beloved child, there are seasons when heaven allows silence to prepare hearts before answers appear. Many people mistake silence for absence. It is not. Roots grow underground before branches ever reach the sky. The strongest foundations are built where nobody is watching. Perhaps you have wondered why your own journey has felt slower than expected. Perhaps doors closed without explanation. Perhaps certain relationships ended before they truly began. Perhaps you questioned whether your waiting had any purpose. Do not judge the story before reading its final chapter. Every delay has been preparing something neither heart could have carried earlier. One soul needed wisdom. The other needed healing. One needed courage. The other needed peace. Neither realized the preparation happening within them. Yet every difficult season quietly accomplished something necessary. Even moments that felt disappointing were shaping future understanding. Nothing was entirely wasted. Not every tear. Not every unanswered prayer. Not every lonely evening. Not every hopeful morning. Each experience added another piece to a future neither of you could yet recognize. And now, something has shifted. You may not have noticed it. But heaven has. The atmosphere surrounding this connection no longer feels the same. There is movement where there was once hesitation. There is clarity where confusion ruled. There is courage beginning to replace fear. Not all at once. But enough that the next decision carries unusual importance. Stay with this message. There is still something hidden beneath everything you have heard so far. The one connected to this story has reached a point where pretending no longer feels possible. Every day becomes more difficult than the last. Every unanswered feeling grows heavier. Every unfinished conversation becomes louder inside their thoughts. They have replayed possibilities countless times. What if they speak? What if they remain silent? What if the timing has already passed? What if hope still remains? Those questions have become companions they never invited. Yet none of those questions compares to the one they cannot escape. What if you are still waiting too? That single thought changes everything. Because hope returns whenever it appears. Hope refuses to disappear. Hope quietly survives even after disappointment tries convincing the heart to surrender. And that hope has kept one unexpected possibility alive. You. My beloved child, there are moments when people believe they are searching for someone else. Then one day they realize. They have actually been searching for the courage to become the person capable of recognizing what was already precious. That realization has begun unfolding. Slowly. Quietly. Powerfully. Something inside them is waking up. Not suddenly. But undeniably. The walls built from old disappointments have begun to crack. The fear of vulnerability no longer feels stronger than the desire for truth. The future no longer feels complete without one important answer. Your answer. Yet there is another layer to this story that has remained hidden until now. One conversation has not yet happened. One decision has not yet been made. One moment has not yet arrived. Everything seems to be moving toward that single point where silence finally gives way to honesty. When that moment arrives, nothing will feel ordinary anymore. But before that happens, there is something even more remarkable that must first be understood. The signs you have been noticing were never only about them. They have also been preparing you. Every unexpected memory. Every moment of reflection. Every quiet stirring in your spirit. Every feeling that something meaningful remained unfinished. None of those experiences appeared by accident within this story. They were preparing your heart to recognize a moment that many people overlook because they stop believing too soon. Do not stop believing before the next chapter unfolds. Because what is approaching is far greater than a simple reunion. It is a moment of truth. A moment where hidden feelings can no longer remain hidden. A moment where both journeys finally begin revealing why they crossed so many difficult roads before reaching this place. But there is one final detail I cannot reveal just yet. It changes everything you think you know about why this waiting has lasted so long. And once that truth is uncovered, you will never look at this story the same way again. The silence you have been living through has never been empty. It has been carrying echoes of a conversation that has not yet happened. Every passing day has added another page to a story that neither heart could fully read until now. Stay with this message a little longer, because the next piece changes the meaning of everything that came before. There comes a season in every journey when waiting no longer feels like standing still. Beneath the surface, unseen choices begin gathering strength. Small moments that once seemed ordinary suddenly connect like stars forming a constellation. Only then does the picture become clear. The one whose heart continually returns to thoughts of you has reached that season. They have stopped asking whether your memory will disappear. Instead, they have begun asking why it never does. Every attempt to move forward without understanding has only brought them back to the same quiet realization. There is something unfinished. Not because life has stopped, but because honesty has been waiting for the right moment to be spoken aloud. Perhaps you have sensed something changing inside yourself as well. Perhaps certain fears no longer hold the same power they once did. Perhaps old disappointments no longer define tomorrow the way they once seemed to. Growth often arrives so quietly that we only recognize it after we have already changed. The remarkable part is this: while you were learning to trust your own path again, another heart was learning the courage to stop hiding from its own. Neither journey was identical. Yet both were moving toward the same horizon. Imagine two travelers climbing different sides of the same mountain. Each believes they are walking alone. Each wonders if the effort is worth it. Neither realizes that just beyond the next ridge, the paths begin to meet. That is where this story now stands. Closer than either traveler imagined. But there is still one obstacle that cannot be ignored. Fear has a gentle voice. It whispers questions instead of answers. What if the moment has passed? What if things have changed? What if hope only leads to disappointment again? Those questions have visited both hearts in different ways. Yet every time they appear, another quiet voice rises beneath them. A voice that refuses to disappear. It simply says, there is still more to this story. Do not overlook that whisper. Sometimes the smallest voice carries the greatest truth. The remarkable thing about hope is that it survives places where certainty cannot. It remains after plans fail. It remains after expectations change. It remains because it was never built upon perfect circumstances. It was built upon possibility. And possibility is growing stronger. There have been moments recently that neither of you fully understood. Unexpected reminders. Strange feelings of familiarity. A sense that an unseen chapter was beginning to turn. Nothing dramatic. Nothing impossible. Just quiet moments that refuse to be forgotten. Those moments matter more than they first appeared. Every story reaches a point where everything that seemed disconnected begins fitting together. This is approaching that point. But before understanding arrives, patience must complete its work. Do not mistake patience for delay. Patience is often where wisdom quietly matures. It teaches hearts how to recognize what truly matters instead of rushing toward what merely seems urgent. That lesson has not been easy. Yet it has transformed both journeys. One has learned compassion where there was once frustration. The other has discovered courage where uncertainty once lived. Without those changes, the next chapter would never have carried the same meaning. Now something unexpected is beginning to unfold. A decision is quietly forming. It has not yet been spoken aloud. It has not yet become visible to others. But within one heart, hesitation is slowly giving way to resolve. The thought that once felt impossible now feels necessary. The conversation that once seemed too difficult now feels overdue. The future that once appeared uncertain now feels worth pursuing. There is still one final question that remains unanswered. Will the moment arrive exactly as expected? Or will it appear in a way neither of you could have imagined? That answer has not yet been revealed. And it is waiting just beyond the next turn in this story. The path ahead is rarely revealed all at once. It unfolds one faithful step at a time, one quiet realization after another. If you have stayed with this story until now, it is because something inside you recognizes that the most meaningful chapters are never rushed. They arrive when every previous moment has prepared the heart to understand them. In this story, there comes a night unlike the ones before it. Nothing extraordinary appears on the surface. The world continues its usual rhythm. People finish their routines. Lights fade from windows. The streets grow quiet. Yet beneath that ordinary evening, something begins to change. The one whose thoughts continually drift back toward you can no longer distract themselves with unfinished plans or busy schedules. For the first time in a long while, they allow themselves to sit in complete silence. Silence has a remarkable way of revealing truths that constant noise keeps hidden. As the minutes pass, memories begin returning. Not as scattered fragments, but as a single unfolding picture. They remember moments they once overlooked. Conversations they dismissed too quickly. Small acts of kindness that carried greater meaning than they realized. The way hope quietly appeared when everything else seemed uncertain. Piece by piece, those memories begin fitting together. Then one unexpected thought rises above every other. What if I have been looking at this story from the wrong direction all along? That single question changes everything. Sometimes transformation begins not with a dramatic event, but with a different perspective. The walls around the heart do not collapse in an instant. They soften, little by little, until light finally reaches places that have remained hidden for far too long. At the very same time, your own journey has been quietly changing. The worries that once seemed impossible now feel lighter. The questions that once demanded immediate answers have become invitations to trust the process. Even though you cannot yet see where the road is leading, you have continued walking. That quiet perseverance has shaped you more than you realize. There is strength that only waiting can build. There is wisdom that only patience can teach. There is peace that only time can reveal. None of those gifts arrive overnight. They are formed gradually, often without us noticing until we look back and realize how much has changed. The story now reaches another turning point. A message is almost written. A conversation is almost begun. A decision is almost spoken aloud. Everything feels close enough to touch, yet still just beyond reach. That is often the most delicate moment in any journey. It is the space between intention and action. Between hope and fulfillment. Between wondering and knowing. Many stories end there because fear convinces people to stop. But not this one. This story continues because courage is beginning to speak louder than uncertainty. The remarkable part is that neither person fully understands how close they have come to a completely different future. If just one earlier decision had been different. If one lesson had been ignored. If one difficult season had been avoided. This moment would never have carried the same meaning. Every chapter mattered. Even the ones that seemed confusing. Even the ones that felt painfully slow. Especially those. For it was in those quiet seasons that hearts were learning to recognize what truly deserved their attention. Now, something unexpected stands just ahead. It is not what either person imagined. It does not arrive with dramatic announcements or unmistakable signs. Instead, it begins with one simple choice. A choice to be honest. A choice to stop hiding behind uncertainty. A choice to believe that truth is always stronger than fear. That choice is closer than ever. But before it is made, one final piece of the story must be uncovered. There is something from the past that has remained unnoticed. Not forgotten. Simply misunderstood. Once that hidden detail comes into the light, every unanswered question will begin connecting in ways neither heart expected. And that revelation is where the next chapter truly begins. A new morning arrives, yet nothing appears different to anyone looking from the outside. The sun rises as it always has. People continue their routines. Conversations begin and end. Time keeps moving without announcing that an important chapter has quietly begun. But beneath the ordinary rhythm of the day, two separate hearts are standing at the edge of a decision neither can postpone forever. One has been searching for certainty. The other has been searching for peace. Neither realizes that the answer they have been seeking is not hidden in a distant place. It has been growing within them through every challenge they have already overcome. Sometimes the greatest change does not happen when circumstances suddenly improve. It happens when a heart finally becomes brave enough to see the truth it has been avoiding. That moment is approaching. The one whose thoughts continue returning to you has begun noticing something impossible to dismiss. Every future they imagine feels incomplete whenever they pretend your place within it no longer matters. They try to picture tomorrow without remembering you. Yet every vision quietly circles back. Not because the past is holding them back, but because hope keeps pointing them forward. Hope has a remarkable way of returning when everything else grows silent. It waits patiently. It whispers instead of shouting. It invites instead of forcing. And little by little, it transforms hesitation into quiet confidence. At the same time, your own journey has not been standing still. Even if there were days when progress seemed invisible, something meaningful was taking shape beneath the surface. You became more patient than you once were. More compassionate. More willing to trust that not every unanswered question requires an immediate explanation. Those changes may have seemed small. Yet they have prepared you for moments that demand wisdom instead of impulse. There is beauty in becoming ready before opportunity arrives. Many people pray for the destination while forgetting that the journey prepares them to receive it. Preparation is never wasted. Every lesson becomes part of the foundation. Every setback teaches resilience. Every quiet season develops character that success alone could never produce. Now the story begins revealing another layer. There was a time when fear seemed stronger than possibility. A time when uncertainty convinced one heart to remain silent rather than risk disappointment. But silence has grown heavier than honesty. The words left unspoken now carry more weight than the fear of speaking them. That realization changes everything. Because once truth begins knocking on the heart, pretending becomes exhausting. The questions become louder. The longing becomes clearer. The excuses become weaker. And eventually, one simple realization rises above every other thought. What if this opportunity was never meant to be ignored? That question refuses to disappear. It follows quiet evenings. It returns during peaceful mornings. It appears unexpectedly in ordinary moments. Not as pressure. As invitation. An invitation to choose courage over uncertainty. Yet there is still one mystery that remains hidden. Neither of you knows how closely your separate journeys have mirrored each other. While one heart was learning to let go of old fears, the other was learning to believe again. While one was discovering patience, the other was discovering hope. Without realizing it, both paths have been shaping one another from a distance. That is why the next moment carries such unusual significance. It is not simply another day. It is the beginning of a chapter where hidden understanding starts replacing unanswered questions. Still, one final obstacle stands quietly in the way. Not distance. Not time. Not circumstances. Only the choice between remaining comfortable with silence or stepping forward with honesty. Every meaningful story eventually reaches that crossroads. And this one has arrived there now. The next decision will not be made in haste. It will come from a place of clarity that neither heart possessed before this journey began. When that choice is finally made, it will reveal something that has remained hidden since the very first page of this story. The meaning behind every delay. The purpose behind every unexpected turn. The quiet connection that neither heart fully understood until now. And when that hidden truth finally comes into view, everything that once seemed uncertain will begin making sense in a way neither of you could have imagined. But that revelation belongs to the next chapter.